everyone, PushingUpRoses here, and today I'm going to be taking a look at Escape from Monkey Island, the fourth and last game in the Monkey Island series that was developed by LucasArts. I have fond memories of playing this game in my teens. It was released in 2000 for PC and in 2001 on the PS2, and I was at an age where I could really digest the story and understand the mechanics of an adventure game. I remember going to Best Buy and seeing the box on the shelf. I had already played and enjoyed its predecessor, The Curse of Monkey Island, and because adventure games had all but died by 2000, I was pleasantly surprised to see one, especially another Monkey Island. I had also just gotten kicked out of public school and started at an alternative school, and I would play this game as a distraction from the unpleasantness of those days. Even though I have played this many times and I own the CDs, I always found the game very tricky to run on modern machines. Not long ago I tried running it in a program called Residual VM, which can be used to play games that run on the Grime engine, but found it was glitchy and not running smoothly, so it had been years since I committed to a full playthrough. When it was released on GOG not long ago, I found that I still enjoyed it. Memories of my weird orthodontist who liked to talk to me about Terry Pratchett and kids getting into weird fights over cigarettes at alternative school came flooding right back into my brain, and I thought, you know, this game is better than people remember. It currently has the reputation for being the weakest in the Monkey Island series, which might be true, but I feel like when you hear someone say that, it automatically leaves this negative impression, as though it must be a bad game. You hear the word weak and you don't think, oh yes, but surely it's still a good game on its own, but I think this is a very nice looking, funny, and enjoyable Monkey Island title. So I am here to defend this game in all of its 3D glory, while also touching on the reasons why people think it's lackluster, including Monkey Combat! Yeah, I know. I'll get to it later. As you probably know, the original creators of Monkey Island were no longer involved with the series after the second game. Curse of Monkey Island, which is a personal favorite of mine, was designed by Jonathan Ackley and Larry Ahern, who previously worked on Full Throttle. The project leads changed again for Escape from Monkey Island. It was designed by Sean Clark and Michael Stemmel. They had previously worked on Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis and Sam and Max Hit the Road. Despite the Monkey Island games having different designers and artists for each title, they all seem to have that classic LucasArts humor and charm, because everyone who worked on them still came from the LucasArts family.
What's that you're drinking? Say, mind if I have some of your pretzels?
The biggest difference between this game and the others is, as you've probably noticed, the art style. We've gone from more of a 2D cartoony style to 3D. But before I hop on my soapbox and get all preachy about the graphics and mechanics, let's take a look at the story. You play as main character Guybrush Threepwood, and the goal is to no longer be a mighty pirate. You've achieved that, and you have even married the plunder bunny of your dreams, Elaine Marley. It picks up where the previous game left off. After marrying, Guybrush and Elaine go on their honeymoon. On the way back, they get pillaged by some stocky-looking pirates, and that is how the game starts. After defeating them with a jaunty-looking jig, you resume life on Melee Island as the husband of your strong-witted governor wife. Unfortunately, you were gone a tad bit too long and Elaine was declared dead, opening up a space for a new governor.
The governor's dead, ma'am. Dead? It was the marriage that killed her, they say.
But I am the governor.
In the running is the suspiciously named Charles L. Charles, whose goal is to win the favor of the island's pirates so he can promptly exterminate them all. There's also a brand new villain named Ozymandias, and this game really wants to let you know that he is Australian.
You got kangaroos in the top paddock.
I'm sure that was a stinging insult, but I don't know why.
You smell worse than a dunny budgie.
Ozzy is a weird antagonist to bring into the plot. He's evil, but not in a supernatural way like LeChuck was in previous games. He simply does not like pirates and wants to turn the islands into consumer tourist traps to make money.
Ozymandias is a businessman, a capitalist, a real estate developer. I'm also the future king of the Caribbean.
And apparently he is so good at insult fighting, a practice in the lore that started way back in The Secret of Monkey Island, that all of the pirates have lost their jobs and houses to him.
He challenged me to a round of insult sword fighting, badgered me into betting my house. It was over so quickly.
It's weird that there's some kind of capitalist vampire narrative for this game, but it works for the most part. Elaine sends us on a trip to Lucre Island where we have to discuss what happened with the family lawyers. They point us to the bank where our family heirlooms are, and while trying to pick them up, it gets robbed by another pirate wearing a Guybrush mask. From here on out, we need to prove our innocence, figure out what Ozymandias's motives are, and win back Elaine's rightful position of governor from Charles L. Charles.
You can't be stupid enough to believe that Charles is just gonna give you free grog and good times, can you?
The best parts of this game feature the wonderful voice acting. Most of the actors were previously in The Curse of Monkey Island, though it is unfortunate that Elaine was given a new voice actress. It's even a little jarring, considering Elaine went from having a distinct accent to no accent at all.
You're an evil, foul-smelling, vile, codependent villain, and that's just not what I'm looking for in a romantic relationship right now.
I'm going down to City Hall to see about getting declared undead.
Stan also has a new voice actor.
I'll just be on my way.
You can't afford to wait too long. This deal won't last.
But everyone else is familiar, like Dominic Armato as Guybrush, Earl Bowen as zombie ghost pirate LeChuck, and Leilani Jones-Wilmore as the Voodoo Lady.
I sense that you wish to dabble in the dangerous voodoo arts.
And this is a fantastic segue to discussing what makes this game really enjoyable. LucasArts has always had the upper hand when it came to voice acting. Their main competitor, Sierra, always kind of lagged when it came to this.
You join Salvation Army, then I give you unclaimed laundry.
Good lord. Everyone is very convincing in their roles. I barely even see the characters as 3D animated models, but rather actual people who are experiencing real situations in the game. On top of that, it's funny.
Why, hello there, Brittany.
Oh, hi. Why do you sound like a sick kraken?
Oh, sorry.
I don't think it's quite as good as Grim Fandango in terms of humor and the use of dialogue trees, but you can tell that the writing, even with this weird storyline going on, is in the spirit of Monkey Island. I think I just killed that man. Now let's talk about
Monkey combat!
Not yet. I'm getting there. I will get there. Let's observe the 3D graphics. I'm going to defend them. Look, 3D was not exactly the hotness at this point in time when it came to adventure games. 3D plus adventure games equals disaster. It became very unpopular very fast, much like me right before I got kicked out of high school. But look at this game. Look at it. Be honest with yourselves. This game does not look bad. In fact, I think it looks pleasant. I love these swirly clouds, like, a lot. I like them a lot. When I streamed this game a couple weeks ago, I really couldn't get past the swirly clouds thing. I was enamored. Oh my god, I love those clouds. And the cutscenes are really not that bad for the time. The characters have expressions, their movements are not poorly done. I really do think it's fine. And the reason it looks better than other attempts at 3D adventure games is the fact that the design team made the very wise decision of keeping things cartoony. Obviously not as cartoony as Curse of Monkey Island, but cartoony enough to where certain things can be forgiven. I like the characters' walk cycles, I like the attention to detail with their clothing and hair. It's not like, oh, say, Gabriel Knight 3, released just a year earlier, where they tried to go for realistic faces and bodies? Seriously though, what is this? This is just bad. No wonder people were so turned off. What the fuck is this? I love the settings. Some are more lively than others, of course, but overall I found everything very easy to look at. I especially like the first couple islands you visit, Melee and Lucre. Very fun to explore. The puzzle design is about on par with the first couple of games. I'm excluding Curse because I thought that game was superior and had smarter inventory object puzzles than the others, so when I say it's on par with the first two games, what I'm really saying is that I thought it was on the harder side. The game is segmented, so there are only so many things you can do in one location before moving on to the next. Very little backtracking. But some of these puzzles seem pointlessly frustrating. Speaking of inventory, would you like to meet Jeff? I made him. He's my very own abomination of nature. I made him out of prosthetics. Jeff is useless and doesn't do anything in the game, but when I was young, I thought I absolutely had to create this poor, lost soul and eventually use him for something. I mean, you can get one use out of him.
It's alive!
That was exciting.
So there's a puzzle in this game that involves getting a skin prosthetic to stretch over a manhole so you can use it as a trampoline. Wow, only in adventure games, right? To get this item, you have to find 3 names, which are random each time, on the inside of the manhole. You use these names in a Mad Lib type of dialogue tree puzzle. If you use the correct names in the story, you get the skin. If you do random names, you get all of these body parts, and I figured as long as they were inventory items, and LucasArts being such pioneers of puzzles that don't spit out superfluous items, that I would need them. When I collected enough, I constructed Jeff. This was very tedious, time-consuming, and pointless, but I don't regret it. Everyone needs love. And a liver. And a stomach. And a butt. A big old butt. There's also this. Guybrush glued himself to this mechanical manatee and rode it for 2 hours straight. You know, I always wondered what Elaine saw in Guybrush, and now it's very clear. So obviously I have a lot of positive things to say about this game. I genuinely do think it's good. But if it's as good as I say it is, then why do people think it's weak? Whenever I read reviews on this game, they're usually prompted with some sort of defense, as though people have to acknowledge that this isn't the best game, but they still enjoy it due to nostalgia or something akin to that. One of the most interesting things about this game is the fact that it was received pretty well. In fact, nearly all of the reviews for it were positive, even praising it for being a fresh addition to the slowly dying adventure game genre. It probably helped that it had zero competition at the time, but still, it was well liked. The criticisms were mostly about the horrid, awful, no good tank controls, which I cannot for the life of me figure out why the developers did this, and of course,
Monkey Combat!
It seems like all of the Monkey Islands have something holding them back from being the perfect games. Insult sword fighting was met with mixed reviews, and when it was expanded on in the third game, it was liked even less. Monkey Combat seems to be the new style of insult sword fighting, only it is way less fun, takes up way too much time, is annoying, is not fun, involves making monkey noises, is tedious, is frustrating to learn, and did I mention not fun? I know you're here to listen to me defend this game, but there's really no defense for Monkey Combat. In this section of the game, you have to fight these innocent little monkeys with an array of grunts and groans. No insults, just monkey sounds.
Whoop, eek, ack!
To win, you have to learn which moves beat which and how to switch to those moves using ooks and eeps, which you input with your arrow keys. Don't even think about using a walkthrough, the commands are randomized, so your best bet is to write all this shit down. This makes up for a majority of the end of the game, which jumps over damn near every shark in the ocean, not just because of the monkey combat, but because the story splits off from the group and does its own thing. Even more so than the feeble attempt at a Mortal Kombat parody, how the story concludes is where the game starts to suffer. Usually I don't give a spoiler warning for older games like this, especially in a retrospective, but I'm going to for this one just in case you want to experience this jarring madness all for yourself, so if you want to skip this, head on to the timestamp on the screen. We good? Okay. In a callback to The Secret of Monkey Island, we find ourselves once again marooned on Monkey Island. While we're here, we need to figure out a way to beat the ultimate insult, a magical voodoo curse that Ozymandias plans to use to eradicate all of the pirates so he can use the island for his weird touristy money-making schemes. We also learned that Ozzy and LeChuck are working together because Ozzy saved him from a certain doom. No idea how, but apparently he pulled LeChuck out of the ice we buried him with in the last game. LeChuck's intentions remain the same, he still just wants to marry Elaine. We find good old Herman Toothrot still stranded on Monkey Island, only this time he plays a different role. He is in fact not Herman Toothrot, he's actually Elaine Marley's grandfather.
My real name is Horatio Torquemada Marley.
But you can't be Governor Marley. I mean, everyone knows that H.T. Marley died over 20 years ago, off the coast of Australia, in a boat race.
Grandpa! Get your stinking hands off of me, you blamed octopus!
So he, with the help of a talking monkey named Jojo, helped us make a bigger, better ultimate insult out of the giant monkey head. Surprise! There was actually a monkey Gundam underneath this thing. To fight us, LeChuck turns himself into a giant statue. Ozzy takes control of him, and then we have to literally not fight and give up to win. Yes, we have to cause a draw 3 times in a row during Monkey Combat until LeChuck gets tired of it, because the best way to cure a voodoo curse is laziness. After LeChuck loses, he regains control of himself and squashes Ozzy in a rather graphic death scene, and then he explodes! I have so many questions. How did LeChuck regain control? Why didn't they just kill Guybrush right off the bat? Why did he combust? Why the Grandpa Marley stuff? There's also a minor subplot with LeChuck disguising himself as Charles L. Charles and getting voted in as governor, and I don't understand why. It's so convoluted that it's rather hard to explain, which is the first sign of a bad plot. If you can't describe it to someone rather concisely, you may want to reconsider the story. I'm not sure I can even pin down the main plot. It's more like a lot of subplots that don't quite add up to a main idea. I also want to add that I never liked the Monkey Island parts of the first game either, so I'm not sure why the writers went that route for this one. Strange that the worst parts of the Monkey Island games seem to be when you're on the game's namesake. In the game's defense, I adored the first 3 quarters. It's really the final act that throws it all off. Not that adventure games have a great track record for iconic endings or anything, they definitely don't, but this one just kind of gives up. It just seems like nobody knew what to do with this, so they threw LeChuck in there in the form of a giant statue, and then it becomes a game of giant rock'em sock'em robots for no reason. I do admire the writers for trying something new because, let's be honest, how many times do you want to see Guybrush versus LeChuck? I know you're probably aggressively nodding your head saying, me, I totally want to see the same thing over and over again. And no, do you want this game to suffer from Nickelback syndrome? They released the same damn song over and over again with slightly different lyrics and now people hate them. You do not want the same shit, no one wants the same shit. I do not want my entertainment to be infested by Nickelback syndrome. That being said, I do think the inclusion of Ozymandias, though something new, still strayed a little bit too far from the Monkey Island lore and didn't quite fit thematically. Like Nickelback, they don't fit anywhere. I also think people are very quick to judge 3D animation from the late 90s to early 2000s, and I don't blame you. I do feel like there is some blind judgment there, probably due to the fact that there were so many ugly games using this style, and over time we've come to realize just how ugly those games were. But I think it's unfair to throw Escape into the mix because look at these damn clouds, I love them! Oh my god, I love those clouds! But the biggest reason people don't favor this game is because the previous 3 are just better. When you have a series of anything, whether that be movies, music, or in this case video games, something in that series is going to be crowned the worst by comparison. That's just how it goes. But it is my personal opinion that Escape from Monkey Island, though outshined by previous games, is not a bad one. I think it has a lot of fun moments, a lot of quality design, and even with the Monkey Combat! I liked it. Something I always liked about LucasArts is that even their less favored games maintained a certain level of quality and appeal, something I definitely cannot say about every developer. When a Sierra game isn't great, it topples into absurdly bad territory. When a LucasArts game isn't great, it still manages to be pretty decent. And if you still can't find anything to like about this game, or you think my praises are just some bullshit powered by flowery childhood nostalgia, then I just have one thing to say. How appropriate. You fight like a cow. Yeah, like a fucking bovine. Also, here's some Murray. I know it's what you're all here for anyway. Roll the clip.
How did you escape from Monkey Island? The last time I saw you, you were sitting on a shelf in LeChuck's demonic amusement park.
Ah, that's a tale of heart-stopping malice and evil.
Naturally.
It all started a few months ago. As usual, I was sitting on my shelf, working on my plans to conquer the world.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching my Escape from Monkey Island retrospective. Remember, never pay more than 20 bucks for a computer game. Unless you want to buy one for me, in that case, please consider becoming a patron and supporting my channel. All of the details are in the description, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.